You have to truly believe in the magic.
What's up, Magic fans, and welcome to this week's episode of Penny for Your Thoughts, the Orlando Magic UK podcast. Today is Saturday, the 5th of August, 2023. This week I'm joined by my friend from Sunderland. How are you, the lads? Right, Gary?
Yeah, how are you, mate?
I'm doing well, mate. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. It's one of those where we're in the middle of the off season, so it's just fishing for information and really seeing what Paolo and Franz do. I
Yeah,
think. How about
yeah.
yourself? Much going on?
Not really, mate. Like I said, I'm recovering from a bit of a heavy, long night of a stag night last night. As you know, I'm going to Vegas in September, and
Yeah.
this was like the warm up beforehand. So, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit worse aware this afternoon, but it's all right. It's all good. It's all
There's
good.
there's just the two of us, Mikey, today.
It's just the two of us. We can
We can
make it if
make
we
it if you
try.
try. You almost think we might have been talking on the phone earlier. Here.
Oh, mate. Great minds think alike. That's why.
Yeah.
So,
The protein squad tonight.
yeah, that's it. Exactly. So, on today's episode, we are going to take a look at some situational lineups. I think this was an idea that Geraint had that he wanted us to discuss this week on certain scenarios that the Magic will face this season, whether they're up 5, down 5 with a minute to go or so on. So we're going to have a little chat about lineups and rotations for the Magic this season. Support today's episode by shopping with Fanatics UK, stocking the latest sports merchandise, including MLB, NFL, NBA, football, and more, using the description links in the description of the podcast. I tell you, I'm hungover today. Via the website orlandomagic.uk.com, where you can find the links as well. Get 10% off your entire order using our code MAGICUK10. And if you're looking for some unique Orlando Magic merchandise, then head to our own online store, magicfansapparel.tmail.com. Like I said, all the links are in the description below. So on Tuesday, Team USA announced that Paolo Banchero is going to be wearing number 8, not number 5, for FIBA World Cup. I think it's this week that the warm-up games begin. I know that Team USA are going to be playing in Vegas for a couple of games before the World Cup. So we've got that to start to look forward to, hopefully, in the next week or two, because I'm bored with nothing going on. I don't know about you, mate, but...
There was the select game, wasn't there, the other day? There was a couple of 10-minute games apparently between the US team and the select team, coached by Moores.
Yeah.
Apparently, the select team won both games.
There you go.
That's been getting a bit of chatter on Twitter. But I don't know. Have you seen any of the highlights, Mikey, or not?
I haven't. Do you know what, mate? I've been living under a rock this week. I haven't really seen much. All I can, I've seen a few clips of Paolo and Brandon Ingram training with Coach Mose. But
there's a lovely little clip. There's a lovely little clip of Paolo taking it at Chet and getting the and one, doing the rounds. And again, I've watched 2 or 3 minutes of it, and it's interesting to see just how active Paolo is on the defensive end.
Yeah.
But also, I will say that from what I have seen, which is limited clips, I'm not sitting through watching that. Sorry, there'll be people who are like Uber fans, and I'm not doing that. But Kate Cunningham looked absolutely fantastic for the select team. So it's good to see, because nobody wants to see real talents get injured. So from my angle, the likes of Cade and Chet being on the court playing's good.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. Like I said, once the World Cup starts, then we'll be sucked into all of that soon. So first topic tonight then is we're going to look at some situational lineups. I think this was, you said, Gary, this was something G found online.
Yeah,
I thought it was a good idea for us to talk about. So now we're into the off season, we want to look at different scenarios and different lineups which the Magic could potentially put out on the floor. So let's start with the first one. Who would you run? Who would you put out on the floor? Who's your 5 if the Magic are down 5 with a minute left?
Right. So when G put this on the chat, I looked at it from the angle of assuming people are playing their best.
Playing their best. Let's say playing their best and everyone's healthy.
Okay. So Wendell's on the floor. because I think there is a minute left, but you're still going to have to get a stop and you might have to get a rebound.
Yeah.
So I'm putting Wendell in there. You want the points, so you're going to have Paolo and Franz out there.
Mm-hmm.
I want the points, and I'm assuming everyone's at their best, so Cole's out there.
Yeah.
Because that's a guy who can create his own shot. We've seen what he can do when the game's on the line. And then it's a toss-up for me between Jalen Suggs and this will really annoy G. It's a toss-up between Jalen Suggs and Gary Harris because I'm looking at it not because I dislike Markel, but if Suggs is shooting like he closed the season out,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm expecting has that leap happened. If not, Gary Harris is our best 3-point shooter.
Okay.
So I'm going for one of them. I haven't got Markel there, not because I dislike Markel, but if I want points on the board, do I just decide I'm going to put the ball in Paolo's hands? And therefore, I want guys who are going to shoot, which is Cole, Gary Harris, or Suggs, and Franz.
Interesting, because you went a different way the way I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
So your 5 is...
So I'm going Wendell, Paolo, Franz, Cole. For argument's sake, let's say he's continued his momentum. We'll say Jalen Suggs.
Okay. So down 5 with a minute to go. Yes, you need points, but you also need stops.
Correct.
Because if you're bleeding points on the other end, it doesn't matter what offense you've got out there. So down 5 with a minute to go. Paolo and Franz, like that's a no-brainer. I actually would have Markel because for me, you want to make sure you're getting a good possession.
Yeah.
So Fultz will set that up for you. So
Yep.
I still want him on the floor in crunch time. Yes, he doesn't spread the floor, but he can get downhill. He can get to the basket. He can kick the ball out to the corners. He can collapse the defense without the shooting. He can pull up and hit the mid-range. So Markel can still do his thing, but I'm looking at it from a point of view where you want to make sure you're getting a good possession. You don't want to force a turnover or anything like that. You've got to make every possession count. But you also want the size on the other end where you can challenge whoever you're playing coming back the other way, where you're going to force a miss or you're going to create a turnover of some kind. So for that, I would have Markel out there. Now the other two, this is difficult now. I would say I would go with Jalen Suggs. And I'm thinking, again, you need stops. You need to create turnovers. You need to be disruptive. And I think with Suggs and Fultz in the backcourt, you're giving yourself more possessions with those on the floor. And that's what this comes down to, is you've got to make those possessions count. Yes, you need the scoring. And if we see Jalen continue to improve from the 3 that we saw him make last year, we've seen it in the Warriors game, for example. I was there in person early in the season. We saw what he can do in crunch time. Jalen Suggs will hit big shots if he needs to. Yeah. So I'm happy with that. I would like Cole out there, but I think when you're down 5, when the ball's going back the other way, teams are going to pick on Cole a little bit. There are going to be games where Cole's going to be called upon. You want him in crunch time on occasions, but when you're down 5, I want extra possessions and I want to make sure I'm getting stops. So I would go Markel and I would go Jalen Suggs, which is very different. And then when it comes to the 5, I thought about this, and Wendell's my guy, but if healthy, I would actually go with Jonathan Isaac. Because, again, you're creating deflections. His hands are always active. He's always creating a problem defensively. He's got the length. He can switch out on the perimeter. He's got the length that he can defend the rim. You've got that shot blocking ability if you need it. I would actually go with Jonathan Isaac if he was healthy.
Yep. I can see that because we know what Isaac brings to the team, and it's hypotheticals as well because you don't know who the opposition
Of
are.
course, of course.
It's a funny one because I think Markel Fultz is going to have a hell of a season, but I looked at it and I was just like, I need the 5 points. We're behind, so how am I going to?
Yeah,
What do I have to do? And I'm like, who are the guys who are most likely to hit the shots? I want the ability if I've got to go for threes because it's that I can hit them. So I was kind of like in that situation, and I know G mentioned about down by 3. I'm like, I'm willing to put the ball in the hands of Paulo year 2, and in the hands of Franz if needs be, and then you've still got Cole out there who can handle the ball, who can create his own shot. So
yeah,
for me, looking at the down by 3 and the down by 5s that G's discussing, if I'm needing the points, I'm willing to give the ball to that guy, and it's not because I don't rate Markel, because I really, really, really do rate Markel, and I think he's going to be in for a. I think what Markel did, if he's fit all season, is going to translate this
yeah,
season. And I think the idea of people posting what the redrafts could be and can you believe Markel Fultz went number 1. I think this could be the season where people do their redrafts and you see Markel Fultz reappearing as a top 5 pick in that class.
potentially.
Because
Yeah,
Jason Tatum's going to go 1 in that draft if it's
yeah,
done. And De'Aaron Fox, I believe, was in that draft as well. He's going to be in the top 5. I think it's Fultz's time where he's going to start leapfrogging back up there. Donovan Mitchell's another player who was drafted that year. So it's not a slight on Jalen, so on Markel Fultz, but I'm just looking at it and I'm going, if I needed the 3 or the 5 points, I think I can get them with everybody at their best. I'm putting Cole on the floor. I'm assuming Cole's having one of those games, which you know you can have, and I'm like, teams do not want that.
yeah,
They just don't want it because he can hit that big shot, and we know Jalen Suggs can hit those big shots as well. And I want the floor spread because if it's spread, it means if I've got to kick that ball into Paolo on the inside or Wendell, I can do it, and they're not going to be able to just collapse and create space that way.
yeah. I can see that. I can see that. And you're right. At the end of the day, you want the ball in Paolo and Franz's hands down the stretch.
Yeah.
And you want those complementary pieces around him. Like, again, same point with JI. If JI is healthy, he can spread the floor a little bit as well. But you don't. You want your 2 guards and whoever's playing the 5 to be your second thought. You want Paolo and Franz taking those shots down the stretch at the end of the day.
Well, as they go is how we go now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
However good they are.
We go as far as they take us.
Yeah.
And that's that. So you're going with Cole, Jalen, Franz, Paolo, Wendell.
Yeah.
Down 5 with a minute to go. And I would go with Markel, Jalen, Paolo, Franz, and J.I.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, it's hypothetical because it depends on the matchups and who you're playing against.
And who's playing.
Who's playing well, who's healthy. But yeah. So, second scenario. You read this one.
Yeah.
This one wrong.
Right.
So, who's your 5 on the floor with a minute left with the Magic up 3?
Up by 3. I'm still going with the front court. What might change on that is I may push France into defending the perimeter to accommodate GI. And I'm probably then going to toss a coin and go with probably Jalen Suggs. But I think Markel's defense has been outstanding as well, so I'm going to go with one of those 2 guys as my ball handler. It's a minute to go, and I don't know what the timeout situation is going to be like, so I'm probably going to say Markel because if they score, you want the ball safe.
Yeah.
You want your best ball handler, so I'm going to go with Markel. I'll go with the usual front court, but I'm going to put Franz down onto the perimeter, and I'm going to bring GI in. And if you go inside, you've got a rim protector.
Yeah. I'm going to go the other way this time. We're switching this up. So, up 3, you just want stops.
Yep.
if you get a stop and you get the ball back, I'm still giving the ball to Paolo or Franz, and they can bring the ball up the floor if we need to. If we want defense, I'm going with Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs.
Okay.
Because you can get a stop, you can get a timeout, you can bring Markel back onto the floor, and it's situational then. But if you're purely looking at getting a stop, I want my best two defensive guards out there, which is Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs.
Yeah.
Now, Black is obviously a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. But the kid's going to be so good defensively. And he's got the same sort of size, if not a little bit more, than Markel. He can be even more disruptive defensively than Markel. So I would go Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs, get a stop, give the ball to Paolo and Franz. And then I would go with Wendell, because you know what you're going to get with Wendell.
Oh, yeah. Fills the paint.
Fills the paint. It's going to make life difficult. You don't necessarily need the shot blocking out there. Again, I think it's going to be really interesting, because I think if Jair's healthy, I think he's going to push Wendell for minutes as well.
I think so. And it's one of those where we're talking about Wendell's injury record with Jonathan Isaac. But if Wendell's missing games, you could see if Jonathan Isaac is fit, then Jonathan Isaac, hypothetically, is going to take minutes.
Yeah.
And there has been discussions for a while in the Magic fan base that as JI's body matured, would he be, you've been one of the big advocates of it, I think, Mikey, where it's like he could be a 4-5.
He could be.
So will he see minutes at the 5? Maybe that's if he gets fit, maybe that's Jonathan Isaac's best chance of starting for the Magic, because I don't think he's getting the power forward slot, and he's not getting the small forward slot.
He's also one of Advent Health's regular patients as well. So
No comment.
No comment. But no, seriousness though, I think, like you said, again, if you're playing against a team who's playing small ball, then you can see Wendell. I mean, we might even see games where you see J.I. and Wendell out on the floor together.
Yeah, I'd say
just play one guard. Play Jalen Suggs as your defensive guard. Play Paolo Franz, J.I., Wendell. There's enough size out there. Or if Anthony Black's really clicking defensively, you stick him out there at, what was he, 6'6", 6'5"?
6'7", I think. One of the two.
There you go. So 6'7" Anthony Black, 6'10" Paolo, 6'10" Franz, 6'11" Wendell, 7 foot J.I.
It's position as basketball, though, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, my 5, if you're up 3 with a minute to go, I would go Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs. No, I'm starting to doubt myself here now. I still might want Markel out on the floor, if I'm honest. At this point, I might just still lean Markel over Anthony Black. But I think defensively, Anthony Black's going to be more disruptive.
See, I think Markel's defence this season started to see what his potential, because before he's been a potentially good defender. Yeah. Whereas I think we saw, like, when he came back this year, actually his defensive effort or awareness might be a better expression there, and stepped up.
Yeah. Right, next scenario. Down 10 early in the game when the starting 5 isn't working.
Yep.
I know who's first on your list.
Cole.
Yep.
I want Cole there because you're hoping that he's going to give us a kickstart and he's going to create for himself and he's going to lead the team, which I do think he's the team leader. I want people on the floor who are going to disrupt. So Mo Wagner comes in to protect more defensively. Jonathan Isaac comes in to try and like offset what you lose there. Again, I want to disrupt. So Anthony Black comes in and Joe Ingles comes in because I want a cool head on the floor, a leader. And again, when you look at it, you want big characters, and you've got Cole, you've got Ingles, and you've got Mo Wagner out there straight away, who certainly 2 of those 3 are going to annoy people. And Cole's the guy who's got the give me the ball, I'll take the shot. So I think there's the mix there. You can lose defensively when Mo Wagner's there. We know that's the thing that hurts him.
Hmm.
So Jonathan Isaac's there to offset that, and then Black, it's a rookie as well. He's going to want to make his mark, and defensively, you've got to stop the bleeding. So he's there, protects Cole a little bit. Cole gives you the scoring edge, and then Ingles is the vet. There's an argument to be had for Gary Harris there as well, but we don't know whether he's starting or not. Again, if we're down by 10 early, you're practically pulling the starters out. That's what G's message implied to me. And I don't know whether Jalen Suggs or Gary Harris is the starter there. So I just thought I'll cover my bases and go with Anthony Black and get some rookie energy in there.
Okay. Mine's slightly different in that I want one of Paulo Franz on the floor at all times. And I think last season we saw a lot of Franz would leave the game early. Paulo would leave the game and Franz would come back in.
Yeah.
So if we're basing it off of last season's rotations a little bit, down 10 early and you start making changes, I'm taking Franz off the floor because we've seen that rotation before. So I'm leaving Paulo out there. I'm the same as you. I'd bring Cole in. You want that spark plug off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody can heat up a little bit. I would go with Gary Harris. Can spread the floor. Same reasoning behind putting Joe Ingles on the floor, in that you want that veteran presence. You want a calm head. It's a solid defender. So I would bring Cole and Gary Harris off the bench. If we want a bit of a spark plug, and I like the Joe Ingles shout, I'm just not sure how much he's going to actually play this year. And I think that's like one of the question marks going into the pre-season. If we're still leaning on the development side of it, I wonder whether Jet Howard's an option off the bench at this sort of point, especially early in a game when you've still got a lot of time where you can make up a deficit. He might not. He's not necessarily going to be one of the. He's not going to be your first. He's not going to be the sixth man off the bench or anything like that. But he might be maybe your eighth or ninth player off the bench in certain games, in certain situations against certain teams. So I wouldn't mind seeing Jet Howard out there, because again, if you've got Gary Harris out there, you've got that vet. So that's probably the way I would lean to start off with. So you've got two spark plugs in Cole and Jet Howard that can come off the bench and watch that 10 points deficit disappear quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd probably leave Wendell out there. Depends how many minutes they're going to play him at a time. But again, take Wendell out, bring J.I. in. I like the Mo Wagner shout though.
I'm just looking at disruption, and it's kind of like energy changing. That's why I was looking, and I was going Cole, J.I. and more. Sorry, Cole, Joe Ingles and more. Change the energy, the mood changes.
Yeah.
You're not going to have to ask them to go out and give you 100%.
No, absolutely. But yeah, I think the first thing is you have to leave Paulo or Franz out there. That would be top of my list. And then Cole would be your first player off the bench. And then fill it in around there. Right, fourth one, playoff. We're in the thick of the playoffs. You got a minute left on the clock, and it's a tied game. I think this is a pretty easy one for me.
Do you want to go first then?
No, I'll let you go first.
Right, so
Elders first. Respect your elders.
age before beauty, eh?
Whee!
I don't know whether this was as straightforward or not. Markel, ball handling.
Yeah.
Franz, Paulo speaks for themselves. Wendell, again. And then that left me with who else? And I actually went for Jonathan Isaac.
Okay.
because I just thought I don't know what it's tied. I've got the guys who can get the buckets.
Hmm.
I don't know who we're up against. I don't know whether we're the home, whether the way. There's a lot of factors to take in. Um, but I want Markel to protect the ball. I don't want the turnovers. Paolo and Franz because they're going to win you the game. But if on the defensive end, Jonathan Isaac can disrupt. I don't want people getting easy baskets. So I've put Jonathan Isaac out there, and if I wanted to guard the perimeter, if I wanted to shut down the star player, because in the playoffs you're going to be up against the star.
Hmm.
So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go for my best defender, and I went with GI.
Interesting.
So not straightforward.
Well, four of those are the same.
Yeah.
I think in this scenario, in this case, I think what you're really looking for is you want your best five players on the floor,
Hmm. Yep.
or might not necessarily be the five best players, but they might have the most impact. Should we say?
Hmm.
So yeah, Markel, 100%. Paulo Franz and Wendell, this is a no-brainer. I'd actually throw Cole in there at this point.
I if Cole's going off, absolutely. If he's kind of having one of those games where say he's got 20 points off the bench, then you absolutely put Cole out there.
I don't even, for me, I don't even think it matters
Mm.
if he is going off yet,
Mm.
because out of all of our guards, he's your biggest threat from beyond the
Yeah,
arc.
yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah. You've already got enough size in your other positions, and you've got enough switch in there defensively that, like we already seen last year, that the Magic a top six defense for
Mm-hmm.
stretches of the season. Well,
Mm.
if you play like that in the playoffs, you're gonna have a chance to win games.
Mm-hmm.
For me, crunch time playoff games, you
Yeah.
want your scorers out there as well, and you got to find a balance. I get it, but yeah,
Cole's a closer. Like to be honest with you, I think looking at my piece of paper, I've gone this far down the list, and I'm like Cole, 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 Cole. So I was just kind of like, better change it up, or I'm going to have an angry Welshman at my door.
no,
So I thought,
but but who we know who our four best players are, because that's obvious. We've just picked the same four, but who's the fifth best player on this team? Because I think that's still to be determined.
it is.
Because I think you can make, again, if healthy, I think you can make a case for JI. Like you think back to 2019,
Hmm.
some of those games, how well he played against the Raptors. All right, he wasn't filling it up on with buckets, but
Hmm.
he does a bit of everything. I think if JI is your fifth worst player on your team, you're in a good position. But I don't think Jalen Suggs is there yet. I still think he's got a way to go before you can say. And I'd like to see Jalen start the season at the two. I would, because that shows progress that he's starting to overtake Gary Harris.
Hmm.
But I'm not convinced he's still. I'm not even convinced he's your sixth best player at this point. Um, but yeah, playoff. I'm going off on a tangent now. But yeah,
No,
my fifth player would be Cole
yeah. He
in
needs
crunch
that
time.
run. Jalen Suggs needs that run, and I think injuries have struck at the wrong time
Hmm.
all the time for Jalen Suggs. I am still of the opinion, which hasn't changed, that our best two guards are Cole and Markel.
Hmm.
That, that's been like I've been on that forever, and I still believe that our best two guards are those two, and that's because if you look at the sample sizes in a Magic uniform, those are the two guys who, over long stretches,
Yeah.
have proven that actually take the injuries into account, etc. They when they've been healthy, they've both been spoken about as most improved player types. Cole's been in probably a little bit late to the dance to the sixth man of the year, but people's been saying he's one of the better sixth men in the league. Again, that's quite a lot of praise. There was praise out there for Cole again. People even saying, "Oh, like would he be worth?" He was getting the Jalen Brunson comparison, which I've drawn up before. He's been people saying, "Is he putting up like was he better than Tyrese Halliburton?"
Mm.
that like right now, you know what Tyrese Halliburton's gone on to be at Indiana,
Yeah.
but there was a spell where Cole actually had like seemed to have pulled ahead a little bit of Halliburton when he was playing on the Kings, and that's how good Cole's been when he's had his stretches without injury and the ball in his hands. And we know what Markel does for the figures. We've seen smaller flashes of Suggs, but they've been met with injury, and then he's kind of seems to be resetting all the time, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. But I will say I do not buy one bit into this Jalen Suggs narrative that happens outside of the Magic fan base on Twitter about all bust, etc.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all. When he's been healthy in particular, you've seen what Jalen Suggs can be. You know why he's a lottery pick.
You can still see him being fourth or fifth best player on the team. Like you can still see that pathway for him to get there.
We
I'm
don't
just
know what
not sure he's in a I'm not sure he's in a position yet to be that fifth best player or fourth best player.
when you look at it though, I think his comparisons are being like Drew Holiday, Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart.
That's the two main comparisons that he gets, and if he lands somewhere in those areas, it's not a bad company to be.
No.
Because one's a defensive player of the year and the other one's an all-star. So it's kind of even if he hits somewhere in between there,
Yeah.
it's a good pick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So there you go. So I took Cole for you. There you go.
good man. Good man.
Right. Last scenario. I can't even say it properly. That's the fireballs still catching up on me from last night. So last scenario then. Who's your nuclear shooting lineup? Who you putting on the floor?
If I just want to throw threes up, I'm going to probably go with both Wagners
Okay.
because I'm looking at who's going to do it from the centre spot. And
Yeah.
then I still want Franz out there who can shoot. And then I just was like, right, who's our shooters? So I was like, Cole,
Yeah.
Features. I'm probably going with Ingles and Harris, but there's a case there where I've got Jet Howard in.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
I've basically gone both Wagners as my front court, probably Ingles and Cole, and then it's a toss up for me between Howard and Harris. And I'm not slating Gary Harris or anything. I don't know whether Gary Harris will be on the Magic after trade deadline.
Now, are we talking just threes, or are we talking the ability to score from all over the floor?
I went for people who had the range to go out to three. So you like your shooting lineup. I was looking at basically gunners,
Okay.
3-point shooters. That's how I interpreted from the Welshman's.
Your most dangerous lineup.
I looked at it as my shoot the lights out NBA 2K lineup, when you just
Okay.
go crazy and just jack up threes. That's how I interpreted the Cardiff Kuzma's notes that he sent through. How about
See,
yourself?
I wouldn't look at it. I'm not looking at this from a point of view. I'm just looking at it from a what five players are gonna give you the best chance of getting as many points on the board as possible. Okay. So I would go with Cole.
Yeah.
No brainer. Best guard that can shoot that we've got. I would go with Gary Harris, who's one of the best corner 3-point shooters in the league. No brainer. Joe Ingles. Yeah, I agree with that. And then I'll go Paolo and Franz. Yeah. I wouldn't even put a centre out there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Play Paolo at the 5, if you want to call it that. But yeah, that's what I would go with, because Paolo can score from all three levels. I think he just needs the reps. He's going to improve. This is, at the end of the day, this rookie year is the worst we're ever going to see him play.
That's what.
The most inefficient he should be during his career. So his trajectory should only be going in one way. So I would go Cole, Gary Harris, Ingles, Franz, and Paolo.
Yeah, and what we've seen in terms of training footage with KD and the US team suggests that Paolo's looking at that 3 ball and a couple of KD's moves, shall we say, which would be nice little weapons and additions to the arsenal if we can bring them in. And there's not many players out there better than Kevin Durant to to learn from if you're a 6'10", 6'11" forward.
Be nice to see a little dream shake in there now and then as well, wouldn't it?
Be lovely, wouldn't it?
Just sprinkle a little bit of that in there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, there you go. That was a bit of fun, Gary. Nice little short episode just to fill in some of these quiet weeks before the FIBA World Cup. But thank you as always for listening and watching. Please hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Orlando Magic UK. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, X, whatever they're calling it at the moment, at Orlando Magic UK. So from Gary and myself, until next week, go Magic.